Hello and welcome to a very lonely edition of the PHNX D-backs podcast. My name is Derek Montia. Of course, I am your mayor of the city of Phoenix, and soon to be once again your mayor of PHNX. I will be joined by Jesse Friedman shortly. He is at Chase Field, and he will be popping in here very soon. But as many of you know, the Arizona Diamondbacks have lost their 9th game in a row, losing their first game of this series with the San Diego Padres, and doing it once again in spectacular fashion, where I don't know if you guys are like me, but I once again bought in. Why? I don't know. I believed. Why did I believe? Because I'm a fool. The Diamondbacks had an opportunity to come back, and they did so, scoring 3 runs in the 8th inning to make this game interesting, a game that previously seemed like it was a blowout, and the Diamondbacks really didn't have a chance in this one. They did come back only to spectacularly blow it in the 9th. The Diamondbacks lose their 9th in a row and are now 2 games below 500 for the first time this entire season. So, yeah, things aren't great, to say the least. Ryne Nelson was not very good tonight. Jesse is, like I said, is going to be here shortly, but we did see in the post-game press conference some information about Ryne Nelson possibly tipping pitches again, and that is definitely a strong possibility. It is something that Brent Strom has talked about in the past, and based on Ryne Nelson's numbers tonight, you could say that that is a very real possibility. Nelson went 3 innings, giving up 7 hits, 6 earned runs. He walked 1, struck out 2. 73 pitches thrown, 48 strikes in 3 innings pitched. The question has been asked and will be asked, should Torey have removed Ryne from the game sooner? That's probably a fair question. Ryne Nelson, did not look very good. He gave up those runs in the 2nd inning there, gave up the 2 runs. Maybe he could have been pulled in the 3rd inning before he gave up the 4 runs that he did. However, I just don't know. I think that, like, splitting hairs here, it feels like we're sincerely to a point where the Arizona Diamondbacks can't really do much right. And when I say that, I mean everything they try goes wrong, including let's just pretend that they actually answered back enough to win this or to take a lead potentially in that 8th inning. Maybe instead of a 7-5 game, it's 8-7, and Scott McGough gives up 3 runs in the 9th to make it a 10-8, 10-9 loss. It doesn't matter right now because the Arizona Diamondbacks feel so lost at the plate that they don't really feel like they're doing much. The Ketel Marte did hit a home run. He hit the first Diamondbacks home run of the homestand. And then Tommy Pham hit one with men on base. And man, it was good to see Tommy Pham hit a home run and do something, because Tommy Pham, since joining the Arizona Diamondbacks, as many of you know, has not been very good. Tommy Pham, 3 for 21 entering tonight with 2 RBI, 3 walks, and 7 strikeouts. He does get the home run, which is the Diamondbacks' first home run with men on base in, I believe, 14 games. I could be wrong about that stat. I'm not the stat guy. You guys know that. Jesse's the stat guy. So really what we need is Jesse to come in and tell us that. But this one was just, once again, another heartbreaking loss, and the Diamondbacks are doing something that's pretty historic as far as their failure goes. Benjamin Hunley in the chat says Corbin Carroll looks especially lost. Yeah, that's probably one of the most concerning things right now. I guess not to be unexpected, right? We know Corbin Carroll is a rookie. We know that Corbin Carroll there was no way he could have continued on the tear that he was on early in the season. I think that my concern, just like many of your concerns, is how did that brief moment where we thought his season might be over, where he thought his season might be over, how has that impacted him as a player, both health-wise and now the changes to the approach? Jesse pointed out, much like I've seen as well, that it doesn't look like he's taking the full two-handed approach as something that he has to do. However, Again, you just don't know really how he's been impacted because his numbers have been fairly atrocious since that incident. But someone else in the chat, Alex Zazuda, asked, where is Sean? We killed Sean. Sean's dead. I didn't kill him. The Diamondbacks killed him. Sean finally died of disappointment. So rest in peace, Sean. We will miss you so much. He tried to come over to this podcast and join this thing we were doing. He wasn't built for it. That's really what it came down to. Jesse and I, we covered this team through last season and the season before. We're grizzled old vets when it comes to the Diamondbacks shitting the bed and losing in spectacular fashion. So the Diamondbacks just might have killed Sean. No, Sean is one of the most hardworking people at PHNX. He is the reason why he is my MVP. I've told you guys that. And Sean actually does entirely too many shows and too much stuff around here. So we're giving Sean Friday nights off. And that is the reason why Sean is not here tonight. Also, we're broadcasting here, me from my home here in this weird video game / toy dungeon. And Jesse, like I said, will be coming to us shortly from Jace Field. But sound off in the chat. I definitely want to hear from you guys because you guys are my co-host tonight for the time being. Be calm, see clearly. Thank you so much for the super chat. You asked what is going on, what is really going on. Explain that is really what's going on. Sean is fine, I assure you. Though he wants to die from disappointment at times. It hasn't gotten him yet. So I guess, like I said, it's another, I guess you could say it was a fairly lifeless day from the offense, but it was probably their best offensive day in 2 weeks. They hit more than one home run. They were able to score runs, but in the frustrating fashion that they have done so many times recently, it feels like the Arizona Diamondbacks only are able to muster up runs in a game where they're absolutely blown out or that the score is very high and they once again get close, but don't get enough in order for them to win. And I mean, I understand that this is there's times where you go through a slump. There's times where things just aren't working out for you, but the Diamondbacks are just historically bad right now. And when I say that, entering today, Diamondbacks went from 16 games over 500 to 1 game under in a span of 31 games. 31 games from 16 over 500 to now 2 games. Now 2 games over under in a span of 32 games, and it's a meltdown that has not been achieved in the modern era of baseball. In fact, you have to go back to the 1800s in order for you to really find teams that have melted down as quickly as the Arizona Diamondbacks have. We're talking about, from teams you're familiar with, like the 1893 Brooklyn Grooms, who it took 31 games to achieve such a task. The 1885 Providence Grays, who did it in 21 games. And then, of course, as you all know, there's the 1886 Louisville Colonels, who did it in 29 games. So the Diamondbacks are now one of 4 teams in history to accomplish this historic feat of futility. I don't know what to say. It's just been really bad. Can we take a look at the wild card standings, Damon? Damon's here with me. We are Damon. We're always Damon's dogs, by the way. This is where we're at now. The Diamondbacks somehow are 3 games back from the wild card. I'm not 100% sure how or why or if that matters anymore at this point. Their run differential has sunken atrociously below, down to minus 26, and just everything is bad. But here to talk about how bad things really are, it's the one and only Thunderstick, Jesse Friedman. Jesse, welcome on in. We talked about the Diamondbacks joining the illustrious group of the Brooklyn Grooms, the Providence Grays, and the Louisville Colonels as one of the only teams to sink from 16 games over 500 to now 2 games under in 31 games or less. And this is just an astonishing feat that has not been accomplished by many baseball teams in recent history at all.
Yeah, I mean, that was all. That stat is entering today, right? I mean, that doesn't even factor in that the Diamondbacks are now 2 games under 500 instead of 1. Yeah, I mean, that's what we're witnessing right now, Derek. It is a historic level of meltdown for this Arizona Diamondbacks team. I mean, they are 7-25 now in their last 32 games. They were 50-34 about a month and a half ago, 16 games over 500. And yeah, and I mean, now we're talking about a Diamondbacks team as Derek dies of a coughing fit. And now we're looking at a Diamondbacks team that is 2 games under 500 for the first time this season. This is the lowest point of the 2023 season for the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's crazy that we were at the highest point of this 2023 season, as I said earlier, just about a month and a half ago. Life comes at you fast in this game, Derek, and we've really seen that with this Diamondbacks team.
I just really can't believe the way that tonight went, Jesse. And when I say that, my main hang up is like it's almost like they did get the lead there in the 8th inning. I know they didn't, because the hole that they kind of had dug themselves in early was too much to get out of, but they got close. They made it a 2-run game with Tommy Pham's home run. It was great to see Tommy Pham kind of break out of the slump he's been in since being acquired by the Arizona Diamondbacks and
yeah,
bring the team within 2 runs. But obviously the entire outcome of the rest would have been different had the Diamondbacks had a lead. We wouldn't have seen Scott McGough come in. We probably would have seen Paul Sewald. But what if that still would have happened, Jesse? That's where I'm at. Like, I feel like watching Scott McGough come in and give up 3 runs was just previewing the future if the Diamondbacks did have a lead anyway. It just feels like nothing can go right. A reliever can't even come into this game when the Diamondbacks don't have a lead and get through the 9th inning without it turning into a disaster now. And tonight, the offense was able to kind of have these little spurts, but they remained mostly lifeless for most of the game. I mean, you got Cattell doing his thing and Tommy Pham, of course, adding that big home run, but there still wasn't a lot of offense generated tonight. Not a lot of base runners, not a lot of hits for this team. And it just feels like, we've talked about them being cursed. It just flat out feels like nothing can go right for this team. Like I can only imagine being a part of the Diamondbacks right now as a baseball team, and like the dread that you have now coming into a game instead of just having a fun time. There has to be like this terrible sense of never getting out of this, just horrible stretch that they're in.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked with Ryne Nelson and Torey Lovullo after the game, and something that Ryne Nelson said multiple times is the game is just not being too kind to us right now.
Yeah.
That's probably a little bit of an understatement, but yeah, I mean, it's like, the D-backs made this game interesting. It was good to see a little bit of life from the offense. They turned a 7-2 game into a 7-5 game with a big 3-run homer from Tommy Pham. First time the Diamondbacks have scored 5 runs since July 26th. First time they've hit a multi-run homer in a game since July 26th. So you feel, you're feeling good. Things are sort of trending in a positive direction there in the 8th. And then the 9th comes, and as you were just talking about, Scott McGough within the span of 5-10 minutes, given all 3 runs back. The Padres had scored all 3 of those runs back on the Arizona Diamondbacks almost instantly. And that's just sort of par for the course right now. Like that's just kind of the way that things are going for the Arizona Diamondbacks, where when they finally do get something to go their way, the bullpen comes in and, immediately gives it back, or, whatever pitcher it may be, or, defensive miscue or base running, anytime the Diamondbacks seem to get some sort of positive momentum going in a game, it feels like something goes wrong. And you saw that again in this one. And I mean, it's a 5-run win for the San Diego Padres. They came in and scored 10 runs. This is a team I believe was held to, I want to say 1 run total in a 2-game series with the Seattle Mariners. That was the last series they played. They lost 3 out of 4 to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Before that, all 3 of those losses were by a pretty wide margin. I think 4 runs or more. Yeah. So this is a team that's been struggling too. And they come in here and, they just way outplayed the Arizona Diamondbacks in this game. And, you look up at the end of the game in 10-5, it's another pretty uncompetitive loss for the Diamondbacks.
Ryne Nelson talked in his post-game press conference about potentially tipping pitches again. Did you get any more information on this?
Yeah, it was very interesting. Ryne Nelson basically, I know we might have a video on this. Maybe we'll get to that at some point. But for the moment, I can sort of paraphrase. Ryne Nelson basically said that tipping is something that he's talked about with Diamondbacks coaches quite a bit. It's something that Brent Strom talked about recently after a Ryne Nelson start in which he really struggled. Brent Strom said, for me, he was talking about pitch tipping, which of course is a pretty serious thing. I mean, if you're tipping pitches in this league, you're going to get smacked. And yeah, so Ryne was asked about that after the game. He talked about how it is a frequent topic of conversation. And he also said, I believe this is pretty much an exact quote. Maybe I'm getting a couple words mixed up here. But what Ryne Nelson said after the game is, if anyone wants to tell me what I'm doing, that would be great.
Yeah.
The Diamondbacks have not been able to uncover anything at this point. And maybe that means that he's actually not tipping and it's just him, making mistakes and other teams taking advantage of those mistakes. But he pointed to a pitch that Xander Bogaerts hit a long way in this game. I believe it was a fastball on the inside part of the plate, and talked about how statistically that's not a pitch that Xander Bogaerts generally hits very well. And yet in this game, it kind of seemed like he was ready for it. So there is this kind of mystery right now with Ryne Nelson where the Diamondbacks wonder if he's tipping pitches, but they haven't been able to figure out if that's actually happening at this point. So we'll have the video here of Ryne talking about that here in a couple minutes.
That's really wild to me. And the reason why I say that is because with everything that teams have available to them in the modern day of baseball, you would think that if he was tipping pitches, they could find out what he was doing. It's one thing, kind of like we talked about with the mechanics, like with Alec Thomas. I talked about a little bit ago with Corbin Carroll's struggles, his swing mechanics, and we've not really seen much change, but we don't really know if ever since that injury there's something that's kind of going on in his head potentially when he's swinging. That's just one of the things that's causing him to have struggles right now offensively, right? But with mechanical things, you would just think that, okay, I understand him maybe not being able to change it, but not being able to identify it seems problematic. Brent Strom kind of held his cards close to the vest when he talked about it and said that he didn't want to discuss what Ryne Nelson was doing. So that felt like they might.
Well, it would be just complete malpractice as a pitching coach to come out and be like,
let's tell everybody what his tell is right now, right? Yeah, like that would be a terrible, absolutely terrible move. But we do still have to give our king snake to somebody, and I know, and sometimes we don't, and I know that that's just a rule that's kind of loose around these parts. But tonight we're giving it to Ketel Marte because Ketel still is Ketel. When you look at Ketel's numbers, Ketel's still doing it. Maybe nobody else on the team is really doing it, but Ketel's still doing it. 2 for 4. He gets his 19th home run of the season, which when we tweeted about, people very much did not care, and I understand. I very much understand that as well. He had 1 RBI and 2 runs scored. So Ketel Marte continues to be what the Diamondbacks need him to be. Unfortunately, his teammates can't really pick up the slack, and tonight is one of those nights where, like I was saying, offensively, it still felt like they struggled quite a bit, but they were still able to put 5 runs up on the board. And it's just so ironic that in games where their starting pitching allows 2 runs, 3 runs, they can't muster up anything. But on a night like tonight, they're able to get 5 runs up on the board in a game that essentially that became meaningless because their pitching staff gave up so many runs. The Scott McGough 3 runs in the 9th are was just the icing on the cake that really took my breath away with this one. I mean, 1 run would have been enough to do it. It really didn't matter. The Diamondbacks weren't able to, match the total of 7 runs that they had scored prior to that. But just the fact that they were able to come in and distance themselves so much further in the 9th, to truly not giving the D-backs a chance to even think about answering back, is just the way things are going for them right now.
Yeah, I asked Torey after the game if using Paul Sewald in a spot like that is something that he'd consider. Obviously, the D-backs were down 2 runs, so not a save situation, not a normal situation, that you would use your closer in. But at the same time, Diamondbacks are really desperate to get a win right now. Like, this team is extremely desperate to get a win. I know, you can look at the standings and say no game is a must-win game. Technically, no. Yeah, technically, sure. No game is a must-win game. But at the same time,
they're all must-win now, Jesse. They're all must-win games.
They're all must-win games for this Diamondbacks team. They've lost 25 out of 32. They've lost 9 games in a row. You've got a pretty darn good pitcher over there in Paul Sewald. I know he didn't look good on Sunday, but the man has a pretty darn good track record and is pretty clearly the best overall reliever in that bullpen. And he's the one guy that the Diamondbacks never use because there are no save situations right now, right? It's kind of like this unspoken risk of having a bad bullpen and trading for a closer at the deadline because you don't know if you're going to have any save situations. And that guy might just sit in the bullpen for weeks, which is exactly what's happened. The Diamondbacks acquired Paul Sewald on Monday, right? July 31st. They got him out to the team on Tuesday, August 1st. He didn't pitch in his first game until Saturday, which was a complete mop-up role. The Diamondbacks lost that game by 11 runs. He gets his first save situation on Sunday, which was 10 days after his previous save opportunity. He gets blown up in that game, and now he hasn't pitched since. And it's Friday going on Saturday, right? Like
Disgusting.
it's bad. It's not good to have a guy sit for that long. And I understand Torey kind of wanting to stick to, the rigidity of the closer role and what that usually means. But I don't know, at least for me personally, if I'm in that spot, I'm like, you know what? We got a 2-run deficit. We at least have a fighting chance to win this game. I might have thrown Paul Sewald in this game if it was me personally. And granted, there are many reasons why I am not a major league manager. So
very true.
I am not saying I have all the answers, but that would be probably
never played baseball.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons actually. There's a lot get into it, but we don't have that kind of time.
There's quite a lot.
We do have the Paul Sewald, Ryne Nelson video here from his outing. And again, Ryne Nelson, not very good tonight.
He's talking
he didn't really give the Arizona Diamondbacks much of a chance to win.
Yeah, no, he didn't. 6 runs in 3 innings for the second straight start. But just to preface this video, this is the video where he's asked the question about pitch tipping. It's interesting.
We talk about tipping pitches a lot. If anybody knows what I'm doing, they would like to tell me, that'd be nice. But we can't seem to figure out if that is the case or if it's not.
I can't pick it up.
Would that make sense to you?
Maybe. Yeah,
Or do you feel like there's enough mistakes mixed in that?
There's some that, like, I think that are confusing, like the heater inside Bogarts today. Like, that was a pitch that he, numbers-wise, doesn't hit very well. And could it just be luck that he was guessing fastball and got it, maybe? But
doesn't sound like it was luck. At least it doesn't sound like he thinks it was luck. And my heart goes out to him because it doesn't sound like frustration. He sounds like he's completely lost as far as what he is doing. Somebody said it back in the chat, but they said, like, what if he's not tipping his pitches? What if he's just throwing bad pitches? And that could be true, because we have some information in regards to the Diamondbacks' overall big picture issues, and some of them do question if Ryne Nelson is actually a major league caliber starter, which we'll get to here shortly. But we thank you guys for being here in the PHNX Sports YouTube channel right now. If you haven't subscribed already to the channel, do so now. Sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss when any of our shows go live. Leave us a little thumbs up. We always appreciate the encouragement, especially after a loss. We like to know that it's just not getting pinned on us. That's all we like to know. But if you're listening on the audio podcasting side, please subscribe to us there. Leave us a review. We always appreciate that feedback. If you aren't a PHNX diehard yet, sign up today. It pays for itself right away. You get yourself a free piece of merchandise, including these hats, these shirts, everything I'm wearing right now. No, I won't send you mine, but you will get one just like this if you want it, or one of the other wonderful shirts or choices that we have. Get a free piece of merchandise from the PHNXlocker.com, 20% off all future purchases. You get a free Mountain Mike's gift certificate up to $50. You get yourself a Dobson Ranch card and so much more. You get Jesse's newsletter Full Count, which dives into everything he's talking about Paul Sewald and how good he could be, but we don't know because we don't get to see him pitch. We'll never know. You get that and so much more. So join us today over here at gophnx.com, become part of our family. And of course, today was Friday, and we hope you got down on Nerfy Friday. I attempted to, and then Christian Walker single, double, triple walkered. He did what he did. And but the beautiful part about it was I bet $50 on this game for there to be no runs in the first inning. And because only one run was scored, I get my $50 back. That's how BetMGM has your back. Get down on the Nerfy Fridays. Of course, you opt in for the promotion. You place a no-run first inning bet on any MLB game. You bet no on will there be a run in the first inning market. If your bet loses, but only one run is scored during the first inning, you will receive a bonus bet equaling your stake. Normally, it's $25. The last 2 Fridays, it has been $50. So I hit my Nerfy last Friday, missed it this one, but I got my free bet back. Of course, this is available only on Fridays. And if you haven't signed up for the BetMGM app yet, use bonus code PHNX. There's a few different offers depending on where you live, but for our Arizona audience, you place your first bet offer and receive up to $1,000 in bonus bets if it loses with BetMGM. Again, make sure you use bonus code PHNX. Check out the show notes for full details. And now listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-522-4700 Nevada. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., Kansas, Nevada, New York, or Ontario.
All right. And in the chat, one of our favorite naysayers, Thunderbolt 47, says this is a team full of NPCs. Jesse, do you know what an NPC is?
I'm not going to lie. I don't know what an NPC is.
No, that's fine. I didn't expect you to. I was at the Game On Expo tonight, which is a convention here in Phoenix for video game lovers and aficionados and whatnot. And it is a video game term meaning non-playable character. It's like when you play a game and there's just that person standing there, not doing anything, not taking any action, but there's like scenery, but they're there. And maybe your character might bump into them or something like that. But aside from that, they're just useless scenery. And right now, he's absolutely right. At times, this team is playing like a team full of NPCs. That's
so it's like the opposite of OP. Right, that's a thing in video game.
Yeah, yes, yeah, that's also a song by Mega Ran. So you're on the board here, but yeah, that's when you're overpowered. But that is not a description for this team right now because they are not overpowered. They have some very big picture problems right now, and a lot of it revolves around, honestly, what to do about their pitching. We've talked about in some of these losses over this now 9-game losing streak that the Diamondbacks pitching hasn't been responsible for all of it, the entirety of it. In fact, at times it's been pretty good, right?
Yeah.
But tonight's starter, Ryne Nelson, has struggled at times, and especially 2 out of his last 3 starts, there have been questions again about him tipping pitches and just his overall effectiveness. He doesn't seem, like I said, in 2 of the 3 starts, he seems like he is completely ineffective out there on the mound. So, we have to start questioning if Ryne Nelson is actually a major league caliber starter and is he a future piece of this Diamondback starting rotation?
It's a really, I think it's an important question that this team is going to have to grapple with. I mean, Ryne Nelson at this point, I believe his ERA is at 5.47, which is out of 64 qualified starters in baseball. That is 62nd. That is third
highest
from the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a problem. Like, good teams don't have guys with 5.5 ERAs in their rotation, right? Like this level of performance is not going to cut it if the Diamondbacks are looking to turn things around next season. Obviously, he's a young pitcher. He's still relatively inexperienced. I still think he's interesting. He's not a pitcher you give up on entirely by any means. But I mean, the guy's got like, I think it's 5.9 Ks per nine. 5.9 Ks per nine. That's really low, especially for a guy who's throwing mid 90s with rise. Like, he's got a pretty good swing and miss fastball, and he just doesn't strike anyone out. That's the problem that Ryne Nelson has had pretty much throughout this entire season. He's just not getting enough swing and miss. He got 11 whiffs today, which was better than his last couple starts. That's a decent number, but only, I think 2 of them were with 2 strikes. There's a difference between getting a whiff early in a count, versus being able to throw that big pitch to put a guy away with 2 strikes. And that's one thing that Ryan talked about after the game as being, an issue for him right now. And there's just no clear path for me, Derek. Like, the fastball is good, but outside of that, the changeup, the slider, the cutter, the curveball, he throws a variety of pitches, and every now and then you see one that's like, yeah, let's do that again. Like, that was a good pitch. Like, I want to see another one of those. But the consistency just isn't quite there, and none of them are really nasty, I wouldn't say. Like, they're decent, but they're not like, none of them are going to be like great consistent out pitches, I don't think, without making some sort of adjustment. So it's not a pull the plug entirely sort of a thing, but going into next year, I think it's a question you have to ask. Like, is Ryne Nelson penciled in already for a rotation spot next season? I don't think you can really be there anymore.
First of all, I don't think it's too drastic that you're already talking about next season. And I just wanted to point that out.
I do realize that. Yeah.
I think that tells a lot about where we're at right now. But it is a good question. It is a good thing to start looking forward. Like, how many pitchers on the Diamondbacks pitching staff right now do we really want to see as part of this starting rotation next year? Who do we want to see come back? I mean, obviously, Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly. That's not even a question about those two. But then you start looking at Brandon Pfaadt, Tommy Henry, Ryne Nelson. None of those guys really right now stick out to you. I think of those 3, based on his performance in the minor leagues, everything scouts have had to say at him, and even of what we've seen at him at times in the major leagues, I feel like Brandon Pfaadt is still the guy that you want to, still feel like of those 3 is the one that will probably turn out to have to be the best major league pitcher. But there's also a lot of talk in the chat about if you throw Ryne Nelson on the Dodgers right now, he turns into a Cy Young candidate. And I hate that because they're right. But I mean, seriously, who from this rotation do we really want to see back? And more importantly, who from the bullpen do we want to see come back? I mean, Lord knows we want to see Paul Sewald pitch eventually. So in order for that to happen, he's going to need to come back next season.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Another thing that factors into this, speaking of both the rotation and the bullpen, is what the Diamondbacks did with Drey Jameson this year. I saw someone mention it in the chat earlier. Did the Diamondbacks way back in spring training make the wrong choice picking Ryne Nelson over Drey Jameson to open the year in the rotation? My personal sense at the time was that Drey Jameson's stuff seemed to play a little bit better. Like, it just made a little more sense to me. He had the sinker, which was a good ground ball pitch for him, kept hitters off balance a little bit. The 4-seamer, not a great pitch, not quite as good as his velocity suggests, but 97 will play, at least on some level in the majors. And a wipeout slider, like the Drey Jameson slider, probably the best slider in the entire Diamondbacks organization. It is a ridiculous level out pitch, and we've seen glimpses of that this year. I don't want to necessarily say, like, of course I was right, and Drey Jameson had a little bit of a stint in the rotation, and he didn't really look all that great. So I don't think it's clear what the outcome there would have been either. But obviously, what the D-backs did with Drey was weird, and now he's injured, and it's a little unclear if there's a connection between his injury and how the Diamondbacks have used him this year. It's a question you at least have to ask. But yeah, I go back to the beginning of the season and wonder, if Drey Jameson had opened the year in the rotation, would he be pitching better than Ryne Nelson and maybe still be healthy? It's a question we can't really get an answer to, but I think it's a very valid one to ask.
And then when it comes to, like I said, the bullpen, Kevin Ginkel, I think, has done an excellent job. Paul Sewald, we haven't seen enough of to really have an opinion on.
They're going to bring Paul Sewald back. You're not trading that haul.
Oh yeah,
Sewald, and then non-tendering him at the end of the season or something like that.
But like Joe Mantiply, the Diamondbacks' only All-Star last year, has really struggled ever since the All-Star game last year. He's had his own struggles. Scott McGough continues to be an anomaly. Sometimes he's the sexiest man in Phoenix. At other times, he's public enemy number one. And I mean, tonight was a case for that because he nearly pitched an entire outing in the ninth inning. It felt like he was going to go 86 pitches deep. You know, it felt like that's how long that inning was going to go. And then there's Miguel Castro, who still at times looks very good, has very good outings. And then again, you don't know what you're going to get out of them. You brought it up earlier, but consistency is the key for all of these guys that they all lack, that they're all missing. And it's the thing that makes you not only a very good baseball player, but a great baseball player. I could go out there and swing the bat a fucking 100 times, Jesse. I'm going to hit it maybe once. That's the difference. I might even hit it really well one time, but that's all that's going to happen, right? Like the consistency is what makes baseball players good baseball players. And the fact that you can go out there and do it night in, night out. This bullpen, I mean, it just, you can't really say that about many parts of this bullpen. And even the parts that you could say that about, like Kevin Ginkel, were actually sent down at one point this season. So it's been a very frustrating ordeal to kind of look at who in the bullpen you would bring back and which pieces are kind of valuable to build around going forward.
One nugget on Miguel Castro that I want to point out real quick. He's at 52 appearances this year, and his contract is interesting. The way that the Miguel Castro contract is structured, his option next season is a team option, pretty much certainly at this point. There was also a clause about it becoming a player option if he finished 40 games. That's not going to happen. So as of right now, it stands as being a team option for next year. However, if Miguel Castro reaches 60 appearances this year, that team option vests and becomes guaranteed. So if the Diamondbacks don't want Miguel Castro next year, they don't want to pay for him next year, then they're going to have to cut him from the team before he reaches 8 more appearances, because once he reaches number 60, that option vests and is secured for next season. So I guess we're maybe going to get an answer as far as his future a little bit sooner. I think someone also mentioned Kyle Nelson in the chat. He's a guy that I think has had a pretty good year. You'd probably pencil him in for next year. He struggled in the later innings. I don't know if he's really an 8th or 9th inning type of a guy. But, you know, in the 6th and 7th inning, he's been pretty effective this year. So he's probably a guy that would make the cut.
Big shout out to BComC clearly with our second super chat of the night. He sent $2 and said, I'm starting to like Frias. Luis Frias is very, very good. But I think I said this already, but Miguel Castro and Luis Frias together as tag team champions in my wrestling promotion, just a confirmed moneymaker. Those two guys are awesome together. But I'm starting to like Frias. I mean, I like, that's the frustrating part about this team. And honestly, you could say that's the frustrating thing with the success they've had this season. Now with the success they've had this season, these guys aren't really allowed to develop because now wins and losses are so important that they're hanging on these young players who are still learning how to play Major League Baseball and learning how to make mistakes and learning how not to make mistakes. And like, there's a couple of guys like Scott McGuff, even you could put in there, considering how long he hasn't been in Major League Baseball, that they're still trying to find their way. I mean, even Paul Sewald in that terrible outing he had, it's only, you know, his second outing, first save opportunity with the new team. So like there's a lot of growing pains with baseball. My wife tonight was talking to me about like just why it takes so long for a guy to come back from injury. And I was like, because any other sport, when you're not injured anymore, that's when you go back into playing. Like, okay, you're done, you're healthy, you play again. In baseball, that's when you start swinging the bat again. And that's when you start going to, you know, Salt River Fields and practicing again and getting in like, whatever at bats you can get, and then going to the minor leagues and everything like that. Like, baseball really is a sport where you have to ramp up. And right now, sometimes when you're a young player, you also have to ramp up in your career and you have to figure a lot of things out. I think that the problem is that if the Diamondbacks were to make some of those drastic trades at the trade deadline that a lot of us admittedly wanted to see them make, we were going to see these guys, after struggling on this team, go elsewhere and probably find their way. And then we're all going to stomp on our hats because they went off to become a great major league reliever with another team or starting pitcher or whatever. And, you know, that's kind of the position the Diamondbacks are in right now is still trying to be patient with this team, be patient with the results, and know that they were just still ahead of schedule. And that's really what it comes down to. I mean, we could really look at a lot of the everyday starters that the Diamondbacks have in their current starting lineup, because there's really not that many. I mean, obviously Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte, Christian Walker. Again, we talked about how great he is as a defensive first baseman.
Yeah,
Somebody that you want to build
he's
around.
Clearly like,
and
thinking about everyday players for next year, he's clearly one for sure.
Yeah, right. And Gabriel Moreno, who we miss very much right now. And I mean, when you look at like Perdomo, Carroll, Moreno, even maybe an Alec Thomas and a Jake McCarthy, these are guys that I want this team to build around personally, because I feel like they've all shown a lot of promise. And even though their results haven't been great at times this year, I still feel like these guys should be that core that you build around going forward. But I've also felt like that about past teams, and part of that core in the past probably involved a Carson Kelly or a Nick Ahmed at that time when the Diamondbacks were still kind of finding their way, or when you kind of go back to like 2017 and those kind of seasons. And, now here we are, like, just waiting out the clock when it comes to some of those players that have been a part of this franchise.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about like next season, which position players on this team do you feel really good about penciling into the lineup on an everyday basis? And like, if you give them a full season of at bats, they're going to be good players. Sure. I think it's those four players that you mentioned from the top. It's Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll, Christian Walker, and Gabriel Moreno, who obviously is a catcher and, probably not going to play every single day. But yeah, those are kind of your players, your position players that you're building around in my mind. After that, there's a lot of guys that just haven't really established themselves yet. Like, is Alec Thomas an everyday player in the majors? You'd like to think so. He's still really young and has a lot of promise, but he hasn't figured out how to hit lefties yet. And the D-backs haven't really given him a chance to do that because they're trying to win games and they're not really starting him against lefties. They didn't start him against Blake Snell today. So he's not really getting that opportunity. And Jake McCarthy, like, is he an everyday player in Major League Baseball? He's got a mid 600s OPS. The stolen bases are nice, but that's not really the profile of an everyday player at this point. So even Geraldo Perdomo, who is an all-star, I think someone just mentioned it in the chat that they might not be totally sold on him. I think that's kind of valid. Like, his numbers have dropped off. He's had a couple of big blunders in the last week with the bunting and whatnot, but he's just not really making solid contact. And we noticed that early in the season, it kind of seemed like he was overperforming. And I think that's sort of starting to catch up to him now.
Well, we thank you guys again for being here in the chat. And of course, I am overcoming this loss with a Four Peaks Joy Bus which is very ironic because I'm not on the Joy Bus, Jesse. So when I'm drinking this beer, it's more like me envisioning myself during the 115 degrees days here in Arizona, like on a beach in a place like San Diego where it's 79 degrees there every single day. Can you imagine being a weather person in San Diego, Jesse? Your job would be so
be really
easy.
Really boring, actually.
Yeah, it would. You would get credit for doing a job that you really wouldn't have to put much work into. But I will tell you that I get over all of my losses with our friends from Four Peaks, and I thank them very much for being the official craft beer of the Arizona Diamondbacks. And make sure to meet us tomorrow for our takeover event. Tomorrow is throwback jersey giveaway night, and of course it's our PHNX takeover. We will be meeting at the Four Peaks draft room at Chase Field. So if you have tickets for that, we will meet up there. If you don't have tickets for that, maybe meander on over. Maybe you can still come hang out with us. You can check out the events page in our show notes to find dates and tickets for our future takeover events. You can also follow Four Peaks on social media at Four Peaks Brewer, Four Peaks Pub, to keep up with the latest at Arizona's hometown brewery. Must be 21 or older to drink Four Peaks, and please drink responsibly. You can find Four Peaks at Circle K, by the way. And if you don't, you can get all your beer, get all of your thirst needs out of the way at Circle K. It is America's thirst stop. It is the best place for coffee, beer, and snack selection and premium gas. The Polar Pops there stay cold longer, according to Derek and little Derek, my soul that's trapped in the gas station pump. You can buy Powerades 4 for $5 and also be entered into what is becoming a very complicated contest where you are one of 10 finalists potentially to win a 2023 Ford Big Bend Bronco SUV. But then there's like a single elimination tournament involving Damon and Sean for you to go through after that to actually get the truck. So you definitely read the fine print on that entire deal. But you can also buy 2 get 1 free Monster Energy drinks and buy 2 get 1 free Beatbox hard tea. Make sure you're not missing out on all this great stuff at Circle K. Right now, text PHNX to 31310 and you will join their SMS subscriber club. And you also get a buy 1 get 1 free offer on 32-ounce Polar Pops. So head to circlek.com/store-locator to find Circle K's near you. Talked quite a bit, obviously, all season long about the minor leagues. We've also talked about how the Diamondbacks need to build this team through the minor leagues like they have. But let's get some minor league updates in regards to some of the things been going down. I know Davison De Los Santos was named the organizational minor league player of the month for July. And he really, I mean, we talked about him struggling early on in the season and not really being that number 3 prospect that MLB Pipeline had him listed at, but man, he really turned things on in July.
Sorry, I'm amused by John's comment. John said, I am recovering from spinal fusion surgery I had yesterday, and this is more enjoyable than watching the D-backs.
John, we love you, John, and we're so sorry, John. My God, if I can bring you a coffee or something, let me know. But we got to get John's thoughts on the minor league system, of course. But Jesse, DDLS, what are your thoughts on De Los Santos?
Yeah, so the Diamondbacks named him, as you said, their minor league player of the month for July, which is really fascinating because Davison De Los Santos spent half of July on the development list. The development list is basically if you're just, at some level in the minors and really, really struggling. And so the Diamondbacks make the decision to send you out to Salt River Fields out here to Arizona, work with some coaches and just kind of, tear things down and build them up a little bit.
Can you participate in like the Arizona Complex League or anything like that? Or is that just,
I think that would be separate. Yeah, I think that would be separate. Okay. So yeah, you're basically just there to kind of just work on stuff essentially. And so Davison De Los Santos was sent to the development list on July 1st. He was activated back to Amarillo on July 14th. So he spent about half of July on the development list, just kind of working through things. He had a really rough start to the season. And yeah, after returning, he's been really, really good for the Amarillo Sod Poodles. Hit 364, 20 for 55 the rest of the month with a 978 OPS. And he reached base safely in every single game he played in the month. So it's a really interesting choice by the Diamondbacks. I'm not sure exactly who makes the decision of who is the player of the month. I kind of feel like they're, just really trying to give him a vote of confidence by giving him, this honor, even though he only played a couple of weeks worth of games. But to his credit, he was really, really good in those games. It really looks like Davison De Los Santos, appears to be turning a corner. And the guy's still really young. He's 20 years old, right? Yeah. So even though things were really ugly for him earlier in the season, he still has plenty of time to try to develop and figure things out. So one of the more interesting prospects in the system. There's loads of raw power there, and we're starting to see him get to it a little bit more.
There's a lot of raw power right now in the minor league system for the Diamondbacks, but you got to always wonder, is it that Amarillo Reno effect? Because those scores can be pretty crazy. Like tonight's score where the Reno Aces won by a score of 14-7 over the Bees. And part of that win was Gabi Moreno playing DH. He went 3 for 4, 2 runs scored, 2 RBI, and a walk. So Gabby's back, folks. Gabby is back.
He's almost back. He's not back to the majors yet, but I think he's going to be back pretty soon. We filmed a video, or I filmed a video on it earlier, so you might have seen it on our YouTube channel with a bit of an injury update there. But if you haven't seen that, I'll talk about it here as well. Gabi Moreno appears to be returning to the Diamondbacks very soon. He played in a rehab game down in the rookie league yesterday on Thursday. They promoted him up to Reno tonight. I believe he just DH'd in this game, didn't catch. But, there's a couple more games this weekend there in Reno. And it sounds like, I think it's at least possible based on what we heard today, that Gabi could be activated and join the Diamondbacks in Denver for their series against the Rockies, which starts on Monday. So you might only be, 72 hours away from seeing Gabi Moreno back in a Diamondbacks uniform. And yeah, I think there's a lot of people who are ready for that. It's become clear there's a big gap. But even though Gabi Moreno still has some developing to do on his own, there's a really big gap between Moreno's level of performance and what the Diamondbacks have gotten from Jose Herrera and Carson Kelly.
Agreed. I couldn't agree more. Another name that a lot of Diamondbacks fans might not be very familiar with is Dylan Ray, who was named the organizational minor league pitcher of the month for July. He went 4-0, Jesse, with a 0.72 ERA, a 0.72 WHIP, and a 0.155 batting average against him for his opponents. And that is, just to remind you, that is in the PCL. Is that right? Is that what they play?
No, that's not in the PCL. That's in the Northwest League, although he was also named the Northwest League Pitcher of the Month. So
that's
even
right.
Relative to his league, that was a pretty darn.
I'm not impressed.
0.72.
If it's not in Amarillo and it's not in Reno, I don't care, Jesse. Never mind. Forget it. Throw it in the trash. Those are some pretty good results, though.
It is granted. Yeah, the Northwest League is a pitcher-friendly environment, not a hitter-friendly environment. But yeah, still really impressive stuff from Dylan Ray. I think you're going to see Dylan Ray rise up prospect rankings. I know, a couple outlets just released their midseason lists. But, going into next season, I think you're going to start to see Dylan Ray appear higher on some of these lists because he's been really promising for the Diamondbacks this season. He's made 19 starts down in Hillsboro, an ERA just over 4. But the peripherals are really good. 30 walks, 103 strikeouts, and 84 in a third innings. There's some swing and miss there. There's a good rising fastball. There's some compelling secondary pitches, a 117 whip. He looks pretty good. He was the Diamondbacks' 4th round selection in the draft last year. And so far he's really lived up to the bill. Wouldn't be shocked if maybe he gets up to AA at some point before the end of the year.
Meanwhile, another draft pick by the Arizona Diamondbacks, Tommy Troy, has struggled a little bit there in Hillsboro.
Yeah, he hit like a monstrous home run in I don't know if it was his first game. It was like one of his first few games in Hillsboro. It was an absolute shot to a lot of people got very excited. It was a shot to straightaway center. We were just talking about Dylan Ray. This is the same team. This is Hillsboro. It's a pitcher friendly environment. It's not easy to homer to straightaway center at Ron Tonkin Field, and that's exactly what Tommy Troy did. It appears there's a little bit more power in there than maybe some people realize. Some defensive highlights floating around as well. I think he's looked pretty good at shortstop. But yeah, he's fallen off a little bit. It's a really small sample size, but 167, 244, 361. That's his batting line since being promoted to Hillsboro. So, a guy could be a fast riser through the system, but hit a little bit of a roadblock here in these first couple weeks.
Well, the Diamondbacks could definitely use whatever help they could get from the minor league system or whatever the hell they could get it from now. Let's take a look at these probables for this series. We talked the other day about this being, Slade Ciccone and then Ryne Nelson, then Zach Gallen. Then we got word from the team that they went ahead and skipped Slade in the rotation, or his spot in the rotation. So now we are left with the one thing we wanted, folks, which is I guess you could say it's Milk Dick Mountain time, because Zach Gallen is going on the mound for our takeover game against Rich Hill. And then we have Brandon Pfaadt starting in the finale against Lugo.
Yeah, tomorrow is, that's the game, right? It's Zach Gallen against Tim Hill. I know that we've maybe said this before. Zach Gallen made his last start against Dallas Keuchel, which also felt like a game the Diamondbacks should win. But yeah,
that was on the road, though, right?
That was on the road. That's true. Yeah. Zach Gallen at home, against Rich Hill. I think you feel pretty good about it, as good as you can feel if you're the Arizona Diamondbacks as far as pitching matchups go. And that Sunday game, Seth Lugo's a good pitcher, but he's not a great pitcher. And Brandon Pfaadt, what was good in the first part of that Dodgers start fell apart a little bit in the 5th inning, but I think he's looked a lot better in this most recent stint up from the minors. So 2 decent pitching matchups if you're the Diamondbacks. way better than the game today, right? I get it. One maybe positive takeaway, silver lining of sorts from this game is that this is sort of the game in the series that the Diamondbacks were clearly, quote unquote, supposed to lose, right? It's Blake Snell, who is arguably the favorite for the Cy Young, at least in that conversation, along with Zach Gallen. And against Ryne Nelson, who, gave up 6 runs his last time out and only threw 3 innings. And
he's never good at home.
And yeah, also has really, really struggled in this ballpark. So if you're the Diamondbacks, you need to win pretty much any game at this point. So I don't want to say you're okay losing this one, but this is by far the least favorable matchup of the series that we saw here tonight.
Which means the Diamondbacks are going to lose 20-0. So look forward to being there in person. We've talked to you guys about our friends over at Wink, by the way. And of course, we've talked about their Wink drink being just a wink of THC. Well, if that's a wink of THC, Countdown by Wink is just some guy coming to you at a party and be like, "Hi, I'm Derek," right? Because that's,
oh my gosh, you just blew the ears off of so many people. I guess on audio, Damon's gonna put it through like the levelator thing, and maybe the audio people are gonna be okay. Anything. But all of the YouTube viewers just absolutely,
that's fine. They deserve it. They deserve it because Countdown is amazing and it takes you on an absolute liftoff. It's a nano emulsion cannabis infused beverage that delivers a sky high blast of 25 milligrams of THC. It comes with a little lid that you can actually decide if you're so inclined, you can measure out how much you're actually drinking so that you don't drink the full can. But if you're ready to escape the ordinary, you're just moments away from liftoff with Countdown. Currently available in only 7 states, and Arizona is one of them. So make sure to try them out. You can find Wink right here in Arizona. Look for Wink Countdown by Wink at all Sunday Good dispensaries in the Valley and Botanica dispensary in Tucson. The Wink drink is now available in 12 states nationwide and even recently launched online ordering and home delivery to about a dozen others. The fastest way to get your hands on one, go to DrinkWink, and that's WYNK.com. And also, check out our friends at Shady Rays at ShadyRays.com. They are a premium sunglass that does not cost you a premium price. An independent sunglasses company with a world-class product that's good, just as good as any other sunglasses. But most importantly, they are backed by an insane lost and broken replacement plan. If you lose or break your Shady Rays on day 1, they will send you a new pair, no questions asked. They have your back long after you purchase, and they also have your back when it comes to returning or getting a new pair of Shady Rays, because if you don't like your Shady Rays, you can exchange them for a new pair, return them for free within 30 days. You can also shop their entire collection here in town at Kierland Commons, a full-stop shop for all things Shady Rays. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out the best deal of the season. Go to ShadyRays.com and use code PHNX to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated by 5 stars by over 250,000 people. And again, we thank so many of you
for Shady Rays.
You got your Shady Rays with you? Did you find them? Did you lose them?
You know what? I actually did find them. As of this moment, Derek, know where my Shady Rays are.
I'm so proud of you.
Which is a sign of how valuable they are to me.
They are.
As I've talked about on the past, I just lose sunglasses. You
lose everything. Let's be honest. You're the only person I know that's left his laptop somewhere and forgot it behind.
I leave my wallet like half the places I go. I'm really good at losing things.
That's why Shady Rays has your back with their lost and broken replacement plan. And they mean it. I'm telling you, sunglasses are the one thing we lose. We put them places, we sit on them, we get lost in between the couch cushions. They go wherever. But you don't have to worry about that with Shady Rays because they'll get you a new pair. Also, if you did not get tickets to our takeover event, a great way to still join us tomorrow night is by checking out Game Time. Game Time is the place for last minute ticket deals. And of course, we are here at the last minute. So if you have decided you want to go tomorrow night's game, get that throwback jersey, you can buy your tickets on Game Time. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. It's aesthetically pleasing, and it will give you the lowest price on tickets that you can find last minute for shows, concerts, and events. So make sure to not miss out on the game tomorrow. And of course, you can snag the stick tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code of PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Well, we thank you guys so much for joining us. We really look forward to seeing you guys out there at Forward Peaks Draft Room tomorrow night for our takeover event. So make sure to join us. Ryan asks, can Shady Rays replace this broken team? Jesse, I'm putting in a call tonight. I'm calling our contact at Shady Rays. I'm going to say, look, I know you guys said it's just the sunglasses, but what if the team wearing the sunglasses has come up missing or is broken? Can you guys do anything about that? So we'll figure it out. But
sports fandom should also come with like lost or broken guarantees, right? If your team is broken, then they'll replace it for free. That's how sports fandom is supposed to work.
I told everybody was wondering where Sean was when this show started. I said they broke him. He's dead now. Sean's dead. The disappointment killed Sean, and that's why she's not on the podcast tonight. But of course, you can follow us on Twitter. Follow first Sean, the deceased Sean DePaz at Sean_DePaz. Follow me. I'm at Cap_Caveman with a K. Jesse is at Jesse and Friedman. We are Damon's dogs. Of course, you can follow Damon at Damon Dog DAWG on Twitter. He's always starting shit over there. But of course, our show's at PHNX D-backs, and all roads lead to at PHNX sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate your time. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's way more fun when you don't lose 10 games in a row.